Bienvenue and welcome back, folks, where it's time to return to today's Parisian Try Your Hand At project, and I'll show you how to add the final finishing touches to this atmospheric scene. We're going to start off by just adding a wee bit more detail to some of the buildings on this one, and that's just using grey again. So I'm going to use natural grey and a size 6 and then switch over to the rigger brush as well. Just adding little bits of foreground detail, I guess, to the buildings because I want one or two of them to stand forward. Now this is what you'd call monochrome. This is just using one colour pretty much all the way through. And simply by adding this line of grey in this position and then blending it away in a second or two, it will bring it forward. And this is the intention with this, to make depth on a flat piece of paper. So using just a bit of water there, and let me blend these areas away. And you can see that that is quite clearly in front of everything else, which is what we're trying to achieve. Natural grey again. And just randomly putting one or two little bits of areas of foreground activity. Nonsense painting again. Random lines. Areas of nothing. There we go. All to create distance. Just using a rigger brush, and I just want to add a little tiny bit of extra detail to the tower because that is kind of the focal point of the picture. So just adding lines and things underneath some of these bits. I don't want to overdo it though because it is meant to be in the mist. So just using pale colours as you work your way through. The danger would be to go all of a sudden very strong with your paint, making this look too dark. Just put the archway underneath there, that makes a bit of a difference there. There we go. That's probably enough on that, to be honest. Just adding one or two little windows and doors to some of these buildings. More so over that side because that's the close part of the picture there. And you can see I'm just almost scribbling away. Not doing anything precise at all with it. There we go. I'm going to pull some trees over this side. Okay, so for this I'm going to use a medium tree and texture brush. This is my own brush, but there's variations of ways you could do this. You could use a size 6 brush and you could pinch the end, which might sound painful, but that separates the hairs and it will give a similar effect, but the tree brush makes it easier. Natural grey, slightly heavier with the grey for this one, and also drier, so I've got less water in the actual palette, okay? I want to get this thing really stippling and squashing the brush so it all goes all nice and spiky on the end, so it's a nice rough looking brush if you look at this, and it's got a taller side to it, and the taller side is the bit I want to use for this, okay? So over this side we're talking winter, autumn atmosphere, and I'm just going to lightly bring this down, and I'm using the brush very an awkward angle, I would say, because it's giving a feathered like effect, and this is to the tops of the trees. So I'm just kind of stroking it down, and it's almost giving like an animal hair. That's another good use for this brush. I use it for painting animal portraits in watercolour. It's not just a watercolour brush, you could use it for acrylics and oils because it's quite a stiff haired brush anyway. So this is nice because it goes over the buildings, you see, it's giving that nice moody feel. Just going to creep in a little bit of burnt sienna to this because I want to make it a slightly warmer colour as we get closer. So I'm creeping in burnt sienna, stipple again. So just lightly, little finger shoots out. It's not a normal angle for the brush, and it's not the way that you normally use the brush, but it just gives a feather-like effect to the trees. And once you've done so much of that, put a few taps on as well. So as well as stroking the trees, which is quite a good hobby, you could also stipple the trees, and it gives the best of both effects. So it's a stipple. I've got very little paint on my brush, which makes the process look more feather-like and soft and fluffy and atmospheric. There we go. But still keeping that kind of misty line on the picture there. That's probably a good time to stop there and then put some branches on the trees to really pull it together. So for this, it's rigger brush and it's natural grey. A little bit of burnt sienna, just to make the colours slightly warmer. I'm going to use this colour quite strong, and I'm just going to go in and use those shapes I've just painted to paint in the trees, bottom up, and then just bring the branches in. And you can see straight away you've got a tree there. There we go, so you can see how that's just giving the nice branch effect there. I'm going to use a little bit of water just to sort of smudge the bottoms of those in. There we go. And then just a slightly heavier colour. That's just adding more grey. I'm just going to put a bit of detail into these trees. In fact, I'm actually going to turn the board on its side to do this because it's quite often a bit easier to do it this way, painting the branches towards you. There we go, so you can see I'm being quite fine with it as well. I'm putting a relative amount of time into this because it is a detailed area. Using a really watered down grey, slightly dabbing on tissue, you could actually pull in one or two misty trees that really are just there to give a sense of distance. So it's just little lines, I guess, for those really. But if I turn that back over, you can see it's given us a nice little detailed area there. And it's starting to look quite nice, giving a bit of a mood to this. Using the rigger brush again and a slightly thicker colour, I'm just going to add a couple of street lamps. Put a bit of a wiggle at the bottom for the detail. Some of these lampposts are really quite intricate things, the sort of Georgian or Victorian style. Let's put another one there. Slightly smaller. Doesn't want too much detail. Then make the colour paler. Let's put another one in. And another one. Wiggle. Like so. Make it lighter again. So it's basically the lamps going off into the mist to the distance. And then we're going to pull some shadows from all these bits. Just lines basically. Use the water to smudge those lines away. There we go, so that's looking quite moody. It's given somewhere to walk down, creating a bit of a valley. I'm just going to add a little bit of edging to the water using the same dark colour. Doesn't want too much. So basically starting on this side, just sort of painting in a bit of a wall, I guess. And every so often it'll step up slightly. So that goes pretty straight because it's going to be a definite edge to the wall. Just let it go away somewhere, using the water on the brush, softening upwards to give the effect of the mist in the atmosphere. There we go. I'm just adding little bits of lines and things to the landscape to help it sit down. And really the final touch to this would be just to add that little bit of reflection. So from that lamppost, for example, just put a line down, use your finger to smudge it. Same for the trees. Pull the lines down, finger them away. Add a bit of ripple to these areas. Even a bit of reflection of the tower would be quite nice. Not too much, just a little incidental bit. Just helps to give that nice rainy day, moody atmosphere. And I think what we should do, just get a bit of grey, rig a brush, just to give a sense of scale to the picture. Just going to paint in a bit of a distant kind of gateway to some sort of park at the side of the Seine. It just helps to give depth, really. And I think that's probably a very quick but really atmospheric finished watercolour of Paris. So there you have it, a lovely atmospheric Parisian evening scene. All you need is a little colour, patience and a dash of passion to try something new. Let us know how you get on. In the meantime, bon chance. Well, time for our final break now, but join us in part 4 when popular SIA professional oil and acrylic artist Mike Skidmore will be demonstrating his rule of thumb technique for painting straight lines, highlights and a wonderful wood grain effect. And I'll be answering a few more of your viewers' questions from the Splash of Paint post bag. See you soon.